This is the official part one in a series entitled Quit Your Day Job. Part one is all about how do you know it's time to go? Well, for me, in my experience, I knew that it was time to quit my day job and leave the full-time corporate environment that I was in exchange for a freelance lifestyle that would allow me some time to myself when I realized I had no time to myself. I am a passionate person who loves to invest energy in creative projects that reflect the change that I want to see in the world. And the role that I was in, fine as it was, wasn't ultimately allowing me to do that. And most importantly, it was allowing me so little time to actually dedicate energy to things that I did care about because it was a full-time job. It involved 2 hours worth of travel every day, and it meant that by the time I hit the weekend, I couldn't even give time to my own creative projects because I was recovering. It's also a good thing for me to point out that self-sabotaging behavior, because I was so unhappy, also prevented me from putting energy into work that I really cared about, because by the time the weekend came, I was either writing myself off in some sort of self-destructive act, or I was spending a bunch of money just to sort of get over the fact that I was really unhappy. And I suppose on some subconscious level you think, well, I've worked this hard doing this thing I don't love to do, and therefore I'm just going to buy a bunch of stuff so I can feel less terrible about how my week has gone. But in actual fact, that kind of keeps you standing still even longer. So what I did was took some time out. I used 2 weeks of annual leave and I went to Melbourne and I had a writing retreat for myself. I was house sitting, thankfully, because I couldn't really afford a holiday. So I ended up spending 2 weeks just creative writing, which for me is exactly what I want to do in my ideal lifestyle. I just want to be someone who shares ideas and articulates them. And I knew that by dedicating time to that thing that I really loved, it would allow me to connect to who I really was and what I really cared about. But the most important thing that came from that was when I went back to work, the difference between the space that I was in and who I was and what I really wanted was really clear. And from that point onwards, I knew that things couldn't be the same and I had to move on. Most importantly though, it did also allow me to touch on what was really important to me. So I knew I needed time. I knew I needed to be investing in passions that I cared about. And I knew for me what was really important was the work that I was doing had to make some sort of a difference. So at this stage, it was obvious that things had to change, but I didn't quite even know where I could go or what they would change to. But I did know how I could potentially find out. And that's what part two is all about, which is gathering inspiration and motivation.